Today I'm going to be going over a map farming version of my recent Evolving Shrine Alva Strat. A lot of people had success with it, but a bunch of people struggled with consistency, so I decided to tweak it for map farming since map farming is extremely consistent and map prices have soared recently, and in the end it ended up being extremely good, netting me almost 2 tier 17s and 2 originator maps per map in my test with what I found to be the best setup. I tried like 7 different setups and I'll be going over 3 in this video, including one ran on regular 8 modded tier 16 maps, which was still pretty good. I'll go over everything, how to run the strat. There's a lot of ways you can go wrong with it, so I'll make sure to address those. And I'll go over a Google Docs of the loot at the end, so consider subscribing, I'd really appreciate it. Just like my last video, the strategy revolves around turning every mob in Alva's incursions into magic, with these incursion scarab of the champions when combined with your atlas, and using a domination scarab of evolution to evolve a good amount of those magic mobs into rares, which is then further improved with this beyond scarab, which spawns beyond portals for every rare that you kill. We use a cartography scarab of escalation and roll for more maps on our dunes. We run dunes because it drops the fortress. We do not daily orb our maps with the strat either, because it's too much money and it doesn't really improve the strat at all. We also use the settler's craft to try and get bismuth ore, because bismuth ore adds 1 modifier to every magic and rare mob in your map. It does affect league mechanics, but at a reduced rate, and with a node on the atlas tree it has a 30% chance to add 2 modifiers. You run through the map, you grab the ore if it spawns, you collect your quant and map dupe altars if they spawn, then you go and you grab the evolution shrine and you start clearing alvas. That is the rundown of the strat. A quick PSA, this strategy is very bogged down by performance issues and the de-rendering issue, but a patch just dropped recently that may fix some performance issues with that. It completely fixed the de-rendering issues for me, so hopefully that also got fixed for you too. Instead of your entire screen stuttering and de-rendering, you now sort of just lag and lose FPS. For me, this works out much better. First off, I want to address ways that you can go wrong with this strat. Number 1, empty your Alva temple after every 3 maps or she will not spawn. I talked about this in the last video, but it was more a throwaway comment as I was going through the tree, so in the end a handful of people couldn't figure out why their Alva was not spawning. If your Alva does not spawn, go to her right here, it will say take a temple or open a temple, do one of those and then she will start spawning again. Number 2, with this strat you need really good clear. Headhunter is a cheat code for this, I wouldn't say it's necessary, but an S tier clearing build is absolutely necessary. Explode is very good too. The currency version of the strat can be done with 2 evolving shrines to make up for slow clear speed, but I wouldn't recommend doing that with this version, so again, fast clear is a must. Also, do not move on too fast from your incursions. Make sure you're killing the rares as they evolve, since there's sort of a delay between clearing a pack and spawning the rares. They're invincible for a little second, so if you're trying to move on too fast, you will be massively gimping your loot. And number 3, shrine uptime. You can achieve just over 2 minutes and 10 seconds shrine uptime on your evolving shrine, and I wouldn't recommend any less than 1 minute and 40 seconds. First off, you can achieve that 1 minute and 40 threshold by 2 ways. You get 45 seconds from the shrine itself, which increases to 1 minute and 20 seconds with the increased shrine duration nodes on the tree right here. You can then use the gull to increase that to 1 minute and 40 seconds, or you can use the rune graft of the warp, which is currently worth around 40 chaos, to achieve around 1 minute and 44 seconds of shrine uptime. One costs a passive point, one costs your helmet slot, so you will be making sacrifices in your build to run this strat. If you combine both the gull and the rune graft, you achieve just over 2 minutes and 10 seconds uptime. And that is how you can go wrong with this strat. I will also say my currency version of this strat became pretty popular, with some streamers running at least versions of it. I saw Thubgun running a very similar one to level up to 100. So naturally the champion scarabs, all the scarabs but mainly the champions one, has been ping-ponging around since that video came out. It went from 1 chaos to 5 chaos to 20 chaos last night. back down to 7C an hour ago, and now it's at like 11. People are trying to sell it for 14, but it's realistically around 11 because someone is streaming the strategy right now. So prices on the scarab fluctuate massively depending on if a streamer is currently running the strat. Even then, the strat is still worth it, even if prices go all the way back up to 20C. But don't be surprised to see these scarabs constantly shifting in prices, since again, the strat is currently being discovered and optimized as I speak. I do plan on my next video to be a more optimized and in-depth version of the currency version also, since I found a lot of improvements for it. So if you're wondering how to take that version of the strat to the next level, then that video will be out in a few days. And onto the tree, again, it's just an updated version of my currency one tweaked for map farming. I have made some improvements that I will also apply to my currency version in a few days, so keep an eye out for that. First off, we need to go get the Alva to 100%, so we path through here. We got to take that. We take this for 4 incursions. We take this for 100% magic chance when combined with the scarabs. And we take this for pack size. We then need to get the shrine duration nodes down here again to reach that 1 minute 42 minute 10 seconds threshold, and then we take the buff effect. It's not clear if the buff effect works with the evolution scarab or evolution shrine, but it definitely works with the covetous shrine, which is an addition that I've made. This combined with the gull, which again I do 100% recommend using the gull. I wouldn't run this without the gull, but this when combined with the gull and the buff effect from down here when you get a covetous shrine, it's around 35% increased quantity, which is pretty massive. And then beyond, I've dropped a lot of the merging nodes over here, so we kind of just take that cluster, and then this. This bit isn't needed, but it's nice to get a little bit more currency out of your maps. We take these settler nodes, this one up here, the bismuth infusion, like I mentioned earlier, 30% chance to add an additional modifier, 100% increased chance to be bismuth, and then we take these ones over here. Every other map you'll get an extra ore deposit with this, and then you have a higher chance for bismuth. I did count how many bismuths I got, and in 140 maps I got 47, so it does seem to work out as a 1 in every 3 maps ratio for bismuth ore with these nodes taken. Then as always, we take all of the map modifier effects up here and the 3 clusters over here. We take the map chance over here in these 2 clusters at the side. We take Eater of World Altars for quant altars and map duplication, and we take these nodes up here for extra chance at 16.5. This tree will be linked in the description below. If I've made any mistakes, then the definitive version of the tree will be in the description. And on to the loot I made a spreadsheet here, 3 different setups, one being the default setup focused on farming tier 17s and 16.5s. This is what I would recommend. The other being a setup which you can use for 8 mod farming or conversion farming if that's what you really wanted. And the final being the default setup but ran on 8 modded tier 16 maps, just to see how viable it is on those. First off, the default setup, it's just over half a divine investment per map, and on the right here, you can see that I listed down how many maps I dropped per map, along with which maps had a bismuth ore. You can see I never dropped below 15 maps, which is the average amount of maps needed to drop a tier 17. In fact, I almost averaged 2 tier 17s per map at 35 and 20, and basically averaged 2 tier 16.5s per map. Granted, some crazy outliers might have affected that average, but inherently this strat has a lot of variation, so you will get those outliers. For example, map 9 dropped 111 maps, with 5 of those being tier 17s, and 6 of those being favoured 16.5 maps. The reason for this was the combination of it being 6 modded with a higher percent of more maps rolled, combined with getting a map duplication altar and bismuth ore. That's the heights this strategy can reach, and if you wanted to roll your maps more strictly, put an even higher map percent chance than I did, and then exalt them for 6 mods, you could possibly even expect results like these semi-consistently. So if you wanted to take this strat to the next level, that is what you can do. In the end, I made 32 divines profit in 20 maps from this strategy. I'm also lowballing how much you can actually sell a lot of these maps for in bulk, since I took the lower end of what people are currently pricing them at while actively excluding stuff that I find bothersome to sell. So realistically, it was a bit higher than this, but 32 divines if I take sort of the low end of what everything's selling for. And I'll do a quick rundown of the other 2 strats. This one, I took away 1 champion scarab to make room for the 8 mod cartography scarab. You could Also do the conversion scarab if you wanted to farm like Elder Shape or Conqueror maps. You can expect 32% of your alvas to essentially be duds, aka not all magic mobs. For me, around 40% of my alvas were duds, which can happen. Either way, I still averaged well above 1 tier 17 per map and 16.5 per map, and I made 24 divines profit in 20 maps. Lastly, regular 8 modded tier 16 maps. This was actually fairly good. I almost averaged 1 tier 17 per map, and in the end I made almost 20 divines profit in 20 maps, aka 1 divine profit per map, and that's excluding a 5 divine drop outlier. So the strat can be done in regular 8 modded tier 16s, but obviously it will be better in 16.5. That is the docs, it will be linked down below again, as will everything else. And I'll end this with a quick showcase. As you can see here, it's just 4 modded, 100% more maps, aka literally the worst map that I could roll. So you're about to see probably the lower end of the strat, which I'd rather show the lower end than the higher end. There's the evolving shrine right there. We just go through and clear the map. The bad thing about Dunes compared to Jungle Valley is that it is very wide open, so you kind of have to remember where all of the alvas are to actually make use of the evolving shrine and not waste time from it. We already got a 16.5 from the regular map itself, but if you wanted to run other maps, I think the second best map for getting the fortress, which is the best tier 17 map, would be Meta. That's the second most meta map that drops the fortress. You could probably find that in bulk fairly easily, but I did go with Dunes because even though it is kind of more spread out than Mesa, in the end it will be easier to buy in bulk than Mesa is, because it's just much more popular. We've cleared the map. I'll go get the evolving shrine. I will say I ran a lot more than the 20 maps that I did in the Google Docs for the strat. It was very consistent. I ran like 140 just with slightly different scarab setups each time, trying to find what I thought to be the best. You'll see here no de-rendering issues because of that patch last night. It does lag you, admittedly. You'll drop down to like 10 FPS, at least I do sometimes, and sometimes I'll like freeze the tiniest bit, but I think that's mainly because of the heat wave over here in the UK. My PC is dying. It is a sauna. I'm struggling to even render some of these videos that I've been putting out because of how warm it gets. I'm afraid my PC is going to blow up. I know if you're like American, probably just a fuss, right? You see the temperature. Our houses are not built for it, but I think this is a lot laggier than usual for me personally because of the heat right now. It's pretty bad, but I'm not going to look at all the explosions because we are on a timer. I'm realistically, again, it's the heat and everything combined, but no de-rendering issues. Again, they've, at least for me, the patch completely solved the de-rendering. I would much rather take this lag rather than seeing a completely blank screen for 20 seconds straight. You can see at the top that I've got well over half of my shrine buff left. I've got one of the best clearing builds, maybe the best in the game, so I can take a pretty chill. I don't need to rush. If you're running this, odds are you'll be cutting it a lot closer than I usually do. Again, I wouldn't recommend running 2 evolving shrines with this map version. You could get away with it in the currency version by subbing out the Nemesis Scarab, but with this one, you're already essentially subbing out the Nemesis Scarab for the escalation, so subbing out any more feels bad. We got a fortress right there. Again, I've never not dropped a fortress whilst running all these 16.5 maps with this setup, so it's pretty consistent. I reckon I got like 25 or so maps in this map. Oh, there's another. Again, it was an extreme low roll, and I'm glad I got to show the lower end of the strat. That's the video. If you enjoyed, subscribe, and I'll hopefully get the currency update out soon.